Good morning, everyone. I'm Eyal. I'm the founder and the CEO of VGS, and thanks for the opportunity to present the company here at the LSX meeting. So for the last 10 years, we've been innovating around cardiovascular surgery, and we will mainly focus on identifying the main gaps that still exist in this old profession of cardiovascular surgery and try to close them with several assets, several technologies that we develop and commercialize in the last few years. So let me share with you a little bit of what we've been doing and where we are heading to. Today, we are the global leaders in the field of external scaffolding of vein grafts. And as you know, vein grafts are still the most commonly used conduit in cardiovascular surgery. You have it in bypass surgery in the heart, in CABG. You have it in the peripheral surgery, in the legs, and to more than 2 million dialysis patients, veins are the most preferred access. So this is the most commonly used conduit. However, still, it doesn't last long. If you look at veins on the heart, at 10 years, around 50% of them will be occluded and more will be diseased. If you look at the peripheral bypass, the recent data from the United States shows that at 3 years, approximately 30 to 40% will either occlude or be severely diseased, and this will require amputation. In the dialysis, AV fistula, in which you use vein, is the gold standard. However, there are two huge problems with these veins. First of all, they block around 50% at 1 year, and this will require angioplasty, another intervention, another surgery. And additional problem that we are going to treat is the effects on the heart. And I will elaborate in a minute, but this access is toxic for the heart. We are focused around all of these areas, and today we have approved product in Europe and some other out of US countries for all of these indications. We have clinical experience with all of them, and I will show you where we are with each as of the last of 2018. So the VEST is our product for coronary bypass. We have more than 2,500 commercial implantations already all over the world. We have follow-up of more than 7 years of the first patients. We started last year the PMA trial in the United States of 224 patients, and we already recruited 210 out of them as of yesterday. The frame device for the peripheral indication, we got in the market last year. We did already more than 40 implantations, and we are already in advanced discussions with the FDA about the trial, hoping to start it in the second or third quarter of 2019. Last year, we also performed and finished the first in-human experience with our device for AV fistula. And again, I will elaborate a little bit about it more in a minute, but this device will improve both the patency and reduce significantly the burden on the heart. The common thing for all of these cardiovascular surgeries in which you take vein is that you expose them to high flow and high pressure that they are not used to and are not designed to withstand. And this is common to all the applications, all the clinical indications that you just saw. Veins, immediately, few weeks after implantation, they will start to dilate due to the flow, and they start to remodel, to develop a thick wall, intimal hyperplasia, and this is the beginning of the disease and the beginning of the end of the graft. This is what we want to prevent. We want to give the vein an external scaffold that will give it the mechanical properties of the artery and will prevent this remodeling. So let me go quickly through where we are today with the technologies and show you a little bit of picture. Again, I warn you, this is surgical pictures, a little bit blood, not animations. So this is VEST. As I previously mentioned, we are CE marked for 3 years. We are active in 6 markets. We implanted the device in more than currently 3,000 patients, and we almost finished the recruitment for the pivotal trial in the United States. The problem is the longevity of the vein graft, and this is still the main limitation of bypass surgery, which is, as you know today, it's the gold standard treatment for patients with severe coronary disease. This is what we want to prevent: dilatation of veins, non-uniform lumen, pathological flows, and this is what we are doing. We were able to develop a very simple device, a very elegant concept that doesn't change the current grafting technique. It takes the surgeon not more than 2 minutes to implant it, and the learning curve is 2 or 3 procedures. So this is a very simple, and what you can see here is a graph from a real clinical experience supported all the way from the outside with our device. This is how it looks in real human. You can see 2 bypass grafts, one to the left, one to the right coronary, supported with our device. The surgeon can control the device during surgery, adapt the diameter, adapt the lumen and the length in order to create a perfect match between the vein and the device in order to optimize the performance. This is the same patient that you just saw after 18 months. You can see the lumen is perfectly patent. And this is another example of what we want to prevent. A patient from Oxford came back after 7 months with chest pain. Only one of his grafts was supported with our device. This is, you see here the right picture. The other one was already severely diseased all along the graft. We have done in Europe 4 randomized trials in more than 260 patients with 2 years follow-up in one trial and more than 5 years follow-up in other trial. I will not go into all the data we published. We don't have time for this. We did it in the best centers we could find in Europe, in London, in Oxford, in Germany, in Vienna. And we are partners, always try to partner with the best centers and surgeons. We were the first one in the world to show that there is a technology that actually affects the biology of vein grafts. And many companies with drugs try to do it. And we show significant reduction of intimal hyperplasia 1 year after bypass surgery with our device. We published about the better lumen uniformity, about the better flow patterns within our supported vein graft. And you can see here on the left, unsupported grafts after a year develop non-uniform lumen, unlike our grafts, which are perfectly uniform. This is another example. You can see on the upper deck, you can see pictures of 4 grafts without our support that are patent, but look how they remodel at 1 year, unlike our grafts on the bottom. We recently published some data about the long-term follow-up, and this is, again, the first time someone does such a long-term, a 5 years follow-up of grafts. You can see a supported graft at 1 year and the same graft at 5 years. You can see that they looked exactly the same, no progression of the disease, and this is the first time someone showed complete mitigation of the disease throughout such a long follow-up. Again, 5 years follow-up, the same patient had 3 vein grafts. On the left, without our device, you can see how it became huge. On the middle, another one without our device, which is small and arthritic, and this is the only one supported at 5 years. Again, this is the best controlled environment. The same patient, same vein. Again, same patient, 2 veins. This is with our device, this is without on the left. All of these patients, the 5 years, we also did IVUS to look at the effect on the disease, and we show that we are stopping it also in the long term. We were recognized in Circulation last year, and we are continuing to publish in very good journals in cardiology and cardiac surgery. As I said, we started our pivotal trial, the PMA trial, in the end of January 2018. It's 1 year follow-up, endpoint approved by FDA is reduction in intimal hyperplasia, exactly like drug-eluting stents. And this is what we have done, by the way, in Europe for several trials, so we are really confident in this primary endpoint. To date, we almost finished recruitment, and actually the number as of yesterday is 210 patients that were recruited, and 17 centers only in the States and few in Canada. This is the recruitment pace, and I think this is the best proof that the surgeons really like the product and really need the product. But you can see we opened the first center in the US in the end of January, and you can see how fast the recruitment is. And this is also thanks to the best centers that we are working with. We are working with Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, Baylor, Columbia, Mount Sinai. All the big centers in the United States are part of this pivotal trial. The trial recruitment will end this month. We have 1 year follow-up, and then, as you know, PMA, we have to submit. We have to discuss with FDA. We have a panel. So the end of 2020 is what we expect to have the FDA approval. So this was the VEST device for the legs. Let me just show you briefly what we are doing in other areas. So in the peripheral bypass, as I said, there is still a huge problem. Although the majority is endovascular today, still 10 to 50% require open surgery, patients with critical limb ischemia that have no other solution but amputation. This is data from the biggest trial in the States about patency of vein grafts in the periphery, and you can see that at 400 days, 45% will develop stenosis or occlusion. This is a 2,000 patient study. It correlates, again, with the rate of amputation. For this, we develop the frame device, again, an external scaffold, different mechanics. It's a different environment, long bypass, prone to kinking in extra anatomical location. And we got it approved a little bit more than a year ago. This device enables us to make veins that are not usable to veins that looks like this. See, this was the previous vein. You cannot use such an ectatic vein. Once you support it, you can actually try to use it, and these patients sometimes have no other option. You can see on the left a long bypass supported with our device, very uniform. I won't go deep on all what we have done because we don't have time, but we have done more than 40 cases now commercial in Europe, excellent feedbacks from surgeons, and we are in advanced discussions with FDA about starting the pivotal trial there directly for approval. Few words about application for hemodialysis, and I assume that most of you know that the market is big, the market is growing, and the market still have big problems. One problem, again, is the patency of the fistula, which is the gold standard. However, another problem, which was overlooked for many years, is the effects on the heart. And once you create an access, which is the lifeline of the patient, you immediately create a loop from and to the heart, and a constant volume and chronic overload on the right ventricle and then the left ventricle, and this is a big inherent problem of an access. And you can see here data from the United States that maybe represent best the toxicity of this fistula, of the hemodialysis. And you can see that patients with peritoneal dialysis have much less incidence of heart failure than patients on hemodialysis. Again, these are both patients with same demographics, no kidneys. So it's not only the kidney disease, it's the toxicity of the access itself. And this is, again, well studied. Once you create a fistula, you reduce the peripheral resistance, high output, and this is high output cardiac failure, which is different from the ischemic failure. Patients that develop heart failure, dialysis patients, have very, very poor prognosis. And you can see that around 60% will die at 3 years. And this is still, again, a big problem. You don't need more than 1 liter per minute for effective access. And the problem is that many of these patients develop high flow fistula, which has flow of more than 1.5, 2 liter, and sometimes 4 and 5 and 6 liter only in this fistula. Imagine, the heart has to work twice, even when you sleep. So this is a problem that we want to address. This is a big, big issue that we want to treat. For this, we did modifications to our frame device, and we did some studies, analytical and clinical, in order to optimize the implantation technique to reduce a constant flow reduction. So we are reducing, in a surgical operation, very small operation, like 20, 30 minutes, the size of the vein, of the venous part of the fistula, like creating a constriction that doesn't enable flow to go, a lot of flow to go, and in parallel, we are mitigating the disease in this vein by externally supporting. So I have a dual effect against the disease and against the flow. This is a picture from Cologne, from Germany, where we did the first trials. You can see patients, young patients with 4 liters per minute in the fistula. He couldn't even walk due to heart failure. You did a reconstruction, you put our device, and immediately post-op was 600 mL per minute. This is a game changer, immediate one. Another patient, you see these are cosmetic problems also. And most of the dialysis patients at some point develop this phenomenon. We just published now, we are going to present at Charing Cross and the VAS meeting, our results from, again, 16 patients. We were able to reduce the average flow from 2.6 liters to 800 mL, and the patency at 3 months was perfectly patent, and most of the fistula we reduced maintained a constant low flow, and this is a game changer on the fistula. Why it's a game changer? Because in this area, it has been shown that these changes in the heart are reversible to some extent, and if we can reduce the flow to normal flow, we can not only slow the progression, we can also reverse some of the remodeling that has been done. So this is who we are. As I said, we are global leaders in this field. It's a big market. There are more than 1.5 million veins only on the heart today. On the coverage implication, the peripheral is a smaller market, and the fistula, again, it's a very big, high-growing market. These are the potential markets for these devices, and again, it's based on the prices that we sell the device today in Europe. I will finish only by showing you a little bit to taste of what other things we are doing. As I said, we developed several assets around the same customer. So recently, we finished the development of the Viola System, which prevents stroke in patients undergo cardiac bypass surgery. The problem is that you have to clamp the aorta in order to perform a bypass. This clamping sometimes lead to removal of particles from the inner wall of the aorta, and we developed a system that enabled the surgeon to do all the suturing, exactly like he's doing, but without any clamp. It's called the Viola System. It looks like this. It's a very elegant system that creates a temporary seal in the aorta, enable you to suture exactly the same way the anastomosis, but without the risk of releasing particles. This is a 510K, of course. This will be released in the United States next year, and this is not like a big PMA trial like we have the VEST. That's it. Our vision is to be a global, a very big, important player in cardiovascular surgery. This field has been neglected for many years with not a lot of innovation, and we feel that we are positioned to be an important player in this field. Thank you very much.